Hello?
And welcome back to Resident Evil 0. So far, in-game, we have run a train off the tracks and begun stealing everything out of this training facility. We're the good guys. Outside of gameplay, we have talked a bit about development of the game, various fun trivia, and talked about the game Sweet Home. It's amazing how many games have spawned in this series over the years. In fact, Resident Evil 8 Village is about to drop. So that gives us 0, 1, 2, Nemesis, Code Veronica, 4, 5, 6, Biohazard, and Village. That's not all, though, for canon games. There is also Revelations 1 and 2. Then there are also the 4 animated movies to add to that canon. That gives us 16 different bits of games or media to figure out the overall story arc. But that's not what we are here for. As we segue into the actual topic, non-canon. That gives us quite a few more games, movies, and literature. Also, at some point, there is to be a television series and a new movie to be released as well. One last topic to cover, in case it isn't known. What do I mean by canon and non-canon? I am not talking about some kind of armament or a lack thereof, but rather, if the story contained in that piece of media is part of the overall official tale or not. Okay, back to the non-canon stuff. There are, of course, the games. We have Survivor and Survivor 2, Gaiden, Umbrella Chronicles, Darkside Chronicles, Mercenaries 3D, Operation Raccoon City, Umbrella Corps, Outbreak, and Outbreak File 2. This is not counting some of the fun games that are included in some of the canon games. Like, there was the kind of Left 4 Dead type game that was included with the Resident Evil 3 Nemesis remake. There is a multiplayer PvP, I believe, coming out with Village called Reverse. There was the Mercenaries games that were included with some of the canon games. I think, what was it? Resident Evil 4 had a Mercenaries section. You have the Leech Hunter, which was a special addition to Resident Evil 0 as an after-game thing. There's also the Resident Evil HD has the Wesker version of Resident Evil 0, where you can play as Wesker instead of Billy. So there's a bunch of non-canon stuff even within our canon material. Anyways, besides the console games, which is what I just named off, there were mobile games available for Resident Evil. Let's see, there was The Missions, Confidential Report, Genesis, Mercenaries vs. Degeneration, Assault the Nightmare, Zombie Buster, Uprising, and Outbreak Survivor. Then, after video games, we have stuff like movies. And right now there are 6 movies available, if you really wish to find them, that are non-canon. They are all the movies done by Paul W.S. Anderson, starring Mila Jovanovic as Alice. And we have Resident Evil, Apocalypse, Extinction, Afterlife, Retribution, and The Final Chapter. What was funny about some of these movies is that they would be like, oh, it's the final chapter, and then it would do well in the box office, and they'd release another. Personally, these movies are good, fun movies, I find. They're not going to be explosive, out-of-your-seat theater entertainment, right? They're fun, schlocky movies. But as long as you don't get too caught up in your nostalgia for the Resident Evil games compared to the movies, you can enjoy them as a piece of side fiction. I think that a lot of people's problems with them is that they take Alice and she becomes your Mary Sue type character where she can do no wrong. She's always the victor and all that kind of... I get it. I do. I really do. But if you just sit down and just kind of let yourself relax and decide to enjoy what is honestly kind of like a B-movie type thing, they're fun. That's all I gotta say about them. Let's see. And then also, like I said, coming up at some point this year, we will see the Welcome to Raccoon City, which is going to be a new movie, which is being produced by someone who is not Paul W.S. Anderson. In fact, he's not part of this at all. And from what I've been able to kind of gather, because I try not to ruin it too much, I try not to grab spoilers if I can, it looks like it'll be a combination of Resident Evil 1 and 2 kind of mixed together. And a little fun trivia, speaking of movies. If you go online and you decide to look up, what's his name? Romero. Zombie King Romero kind of deal. He did do a commercial for Resident Evil 2 that was only released in Japan. And it's actually a pretty good commercial. And at one point, he was going to be doing Resident Evil movies, but Capcom said that his movies were boring, and they didn't want him to be the producer. And that's why we didn't get a Romero Resident Evil movie like had been talked about for ages. Let's see here. What else? Well, we have coming to Netflix sometime in the near future, hopefully, will be a live-action series at some point, and it looks like it's going to be dealing with some Wesker children, but I believe it's going to be non-canon, so I don't think it'll be something that we have to worry about if you just want to watch canon material. Whew. So, lots of games, some movies. Now we have novels. We have a prequel story written as a pre-order bonus for the Sega Saturn. Released with Biohazard in Japan, so Resident Evil, when it was put on the Sega Saturn. There were also a series of novels released by an author named S.D. Perry, with The Umbrella Conspiracy, Caliban Cove, City of the Dead, Underworld, Nemesis, Code Veronica, and Zero Hour. I've read most of these. I really enjoyed reading them from what I can recall of them, and I'm actually considering picking them up again, and I might do a little review of them at some point in the future. There were also 3 novels released in Japan. The Hokai no Yoju, which translates roughly to Strange Beasts of the North Sea, To the Liberty, and Rose Blank. A novelization of the films was also released between 2 separate publishers, as well as some novels released based on the Umbrella Chronicles games. And then there are the comics. We have quite a few comics that I didn't even know about, even though I do own some of them. I own quite a few from the Wildstorm series that was put out ages ago. But there was a Marvel Resident Evil comic put out as a promotional giveaway for Resident Evil. Didn't know. And like I said, then we have Wildstorm, who released 5 comic magazines, as well as a 4-issue miniseries that took place right after those comic magazines. I have all those. The comic magazines are kind of fun. They have some behind-the-scenes stuff for the original Resident Evil 2, as well as Resident Evil, like some of the ideas that were in there, and I'll be talking about them when we get to those games. And I might even include pictures of them for you guys to look at as we go through. Let's see here. And then the 4-issue miniseries was Fire and Ice. Wildstorm also produced a series as a prequel to Resident Evil 5. And upon digging a little further, I found comics for Code Veronica. And then we have the manhwa, or basically, the manhwa are Chinese comic books out of like Hong Kong and such, right? There was some for Resident Evil 2, Nemesis, as well as a supplemental comic to Nemesis, which, anyways, besides that, they also have Code Veronica and Zero. And then there were also some licensed webcomics released in Japan. I tried to find pictures of well, not pictures, I tried to actually find them, and one of them looks interesting. From what I could tell, the person who drew that webcomic decided to include English for all the people speaking, with a little bit of Japanese around the sides to fill in for the Japanese audience, even though this was a Japanese webcomic. And the reason why they did that is they wanted to pay homage to the fact that even in Japan, a lot of the voice acting was done in English for these games. I don't know why, but there you go. That's why. So they were kind of throwing homage to the fact that even though the games were released in Japan, they would have Japanese subtitles while the actors were speaking English. I thought that was kind of cool. Now, on top of all of this, there were also actually toys released over the series' history. There were a lot of toys. I was very shocked at how many toys I was finding. Some of them are just figurines, some of them are action figures. There's a lot of different companies. I recall some of them. I didn't know about some of them. Like, I mentioned that there was a Rebecca action figure. This Rebecca action figure was only released in Japan. I knew about it from my memory So I probably saw it at some point, but I couldn't find it when I was looking up the action figures until I broadened my scope for my Google Foo. Anyways, they had a toy company called Palisade, and they released 3 series in 1998. They had 3 waves, like I said, based on Resident Evil 2, 3, and Code Veronica. With the first wave having Leon, Nemesis, Nosferatu, and a soldier zombie. Series 2 had a zombie cop, Mr. X, Alexia, and Claire Redfield. And finally, Series 3 had Chris Redfield, a tyrant, Wesker, a hunter, and the William G4 version. I'm sure there were more than that because I found, like I said, I have pictures in one of my webcomic, not my webcomic, one of my comic magazines. I actually have pictures of some of these toys. And there was also like a Jill Valentine. There was a different version of Wesker. There was a couple different ones, but these were ones that I was finding quickly and easily when I was doing my research. I did find out, though, that some of these toys that were released by Palisades had variants. So, like Chris Redfield, he had his normal outfit that he had in the Resident Evil. It wasn't. I don't think it was the remake. I think it was the original Resident Evil. And then there was a camo version where instead of having like the like dark green kind of blackish T-shirt underneath his vest, it was a camo shirt as well as his pants. Didn't know that, and I thought that was cool. The cop that I do remember seeing way back when had 2 variants. There was a blue shirt and a white shirt. So stuff like that. I thought that was kind of cool. I did not price any of these things out. Like I said, I was just kind of going through, and I was just shocked at how many toys there were released for Resident Evil. There was like a company named NECA who released some figurines. And that was just one of many companies that I was finding. So, like, there was some... For Resident Evil 2, the remake, there were some, like, bookends released of Claire and Leon. Really nice looking, all that kind of stuff. And then I found something that made me laugh. So, like I said, there are a lot of action figures and figurines released. Some in the US, some in Japan, some here, some there. But then I found a company called Tubbs. They released Resident Evil rubber duckies, which I will be showing here. So, why did I bring all this stuff up if just pointless trivia, right? Well, the plan is for me, in the next video, I'm actually going to cover some of these topics a little more in detail, but I just wanted to cover all the fun stuff that's out there for Resident Evil besides the video games, because that's what most people know, is the video games or the Anderson movies. And there is so much more that you can discover for this series if you wish to. Alright guys, thank you very much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a great day. Bye.